We are here with John Heinsen of Bunnygraph. Pleasure to have you here. Now, you're coming right off. You were the moderator for the panel, the Indie City, how to find your niche in the digital ecosystem.
That's right.
All right. So
it was a great session, very well attended.
I'm glad to hear. I would expect no less. How do you find your niche in the digital ecosystem, or do niches exist? I mean, is it a niche market? Are we talking about finding niches? Is that the way to go?
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about what the web provides now is an opportunity to go after very targeted audiences, whether it's the gaming space or other things of that nature. I mean, it really is still very much the Wild West, not because the audience isn't there, but because the technologies are always changing.
Right.
So if we had this conversation 2 years ago, it's all about YouTube, but now it's all about Vine and all these other great things that are out there. So that was really what we were kind of talking about. We really tried to gear this session towards people that were just getting into the space. You know, how do they hit the ground running? They understand that people are making money a little bit now, you know, and all the rest. So it's I kind of really tried to gear the panel towards from a traditional perspective. So for instance, the whole idea of competitive analysis, right? So if you really want to get a sense of the landscape, you know, how do you do that, right?
Okay.
The whole idea about can you just enter the space cold, or do you really, do you need to find partners to work with, people that have that experience, things of that nature? Do you really have to commit real budgets? And then some of these great companies that we had on the panel, like Machinima and Maker and the Collective, do we have to, what are they looking for when people bring stuff in? And the thing that we learned was that you really do need to have an audience when you come. It's not just about your idea. You need to prove you have an existing audience. And like Seth Rogen said in the great session yesterday, just the whole idea about just get out there and start making stuff.
Right.
Just make stuff every day. And somebody made the equation in this last session about the idea of who's ever tried to develop a TV pilot and how long before it got sold. And it could take 6 months, a year. It takes a long time. Well, that's the same thing how you have to think with this. Just start creating that content, do an episode a week, and just start cranking away, build up your audience. And then once you have that and that body of work you've created, that's when you take it to these MCNs, these multi-channel networks, and that's when you have their attention.
Was there any other consensus on the panel other than to arrive with your audience rather than expect the MCN to build your audience or hand you your audience? Was there, in terms of the other things you mentioned, comparative analysis, in terms of having a team, in terms of, was there a consensus in terms of how to go about it other than just to be...
It's about telling really good stories and really talking, really having a relationship with your audience. It kind of came to me halfway through the session that really what's unique about this online space is that it's really a medium with no fourth wall.
Right.
Is that you're really there engaging that audience, and these creators do go in and answer all the comments that people weigh in on the episodes, and that's really, really what people are looking for. You really become one with your audience.
Right.
They talked about VidCon, which is a big event coming up in Anaheim, and where they'll have these online stars show up, and it's like the Beatles. You have 14-year-old girls throwing their underwear all over the place, which is kind of like a Producers Guild board meeting.
Or like the panel I moderated last year with Shane Dawson, where
everybody goes crazy.
Relatively few underwear was thrown, but metaphorically.
Yeah, of course.
For sure.
So it's really exciting because it's like the new definition of what the audience is, right? Kids aren't watching stuff with their parents. They're not on TV anymore. That's really where it's evolving from. They're in these other places. They were talking about how a lot of websites, their big spike of traffic is 6 to 7 in the morning. The kids get up in the morning and they're engaging content.
Fascinating.
Things like that. So it's and then it's global. Some of these guys are big in Europe, big in Asia, and all the rest. And so it really is this audience that kind of feeds on a 24-hour cycle.
Right.
Because they could be creating content overnight and then build up its base here and back and forth. So that's really exciting as well.
Yeah. One of the things that seems to have happened over the last couple of years is that the presumption a few years ago about online content was like nobody's going to watch for more than 2 minutes.
Right.
1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you're pushing it. And I don't know when it happened. It was like a switch got flipped, but suddenly it feels like people are willing to sit still for longer content. And was the content so good that people stuck around for it, or did people just get used to the format and get used to the interface? And is it a matter of comfort, or is it the content that's keeping them there for longer time?
I think it's definitely about it depends on what stories you're telling, really, in all honesty. I think that it's still very much the Wild West. I think in a lot of ways the younger demos are skewing to shorter because Vine and things like that are really kind of taking the lead. But I do think it covers the whole gamut of things. You've just got to get them and keep them engaged.
Right.
That's really what it's about. And that's what's kind of exciting. In the earlier panel that was awesome today with Chris Tomes talking to the bigger companies, they really got into budgets and cost. And really the thing you have to think about being in an environment with no standardization is that notion of the cost per minute. And any producer will tell you, the longer you're on set, the longer you have the cameras, the more content you can do. So if you're doing 2-minute episodes compared to 18-minute episodes, you can get a lot of episodes into a well-structured workday.
Right.
And that's the thing. So now you have that volume of content that you can take to the market. So it really comes down to that cost per minute. And the things that people don't think about when they think about, the web and TV and all the rest, you take a primetime sitcom at $1.5 million, that's like $67,000 a minute. Well, who the hell's spending that in the online space? Nobody, right?
Right.
Everything's like, $3,000 to $10,000 a minute, right? So there's a huge disconnect still. That's why I think the greatest potential is really the transmedia model, where you have producers in these shows that are creatively from the show level, not necessarily the marketing level at a broadcast network, the show level, creating this great content that's designed to live in the digital space, producing it in principal photography, working with the line producers to really bring that quality production value, but really making it the cost of doing business and really thinking economically. That's the big thing. Right. Everybody wants to create a web series, they're going to spend $50,000, and they say, "Where's my $50,000 back?" Well, we're not there yet. It's really about, just building your own brand and extending the reach of your audience.
Yeah, you're investing in yourself, in
Absolutely.
your own vision. Now, I guess we're almost out of time here, but you brought up Vine a couple times, and maybe this runs counter to the question I just asked about lengthening attention spans. But how do you tell stories with Vine? I mean, Vine's you've got 6-second bites, right?
Yeah, I'm not the guy to tell you why it works and why it doesn't. I'm not the demographic by any means. Yeah. And I think too, we're in constant evolution.
We should get our interns back on here. They can tell stories on Vine.
Well, here's the thing. It's a moving train. It's not like when television started and it's like, hey, come to television. The kids are out there, they're involved with all this stuff. New companies pop up every time, right? And so that's the exciting thing. The studios and the networks and even a lot of the professional content creators are really trying to catch a moving train. But more and more, we're going to have a better understanding of the marketplace. And from a studio perspective, if you're really talking about top tier, producers and all the rest, a lot of people that are really trying to figure out the digital space are a bunch of scared people in a dark room.
This is true.
And a handful of us are looking around for the light switch. And once the lights come back on, there'll be money to be made for everybody. We're just not there yet.
Right.
But it is coming damn quick, I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
and the great thing about the Guild is that we're really leading the way. We've got so many great people involved with the New Media Council that are really not only at the forefront in their professional lives, but are very committed to the notion of giving back and not just educating themselves and providing opportunity, but for educating the traditional film and TV producers that are also a big part of this Guild.
Yeah, we'd like to think that when the lights go on, it'll be someone here at the conference flipping the switch.
That would be great.
All right. Well, John, thank you so much for being
Absolutely.
part of the conference, joining us here on
Absolutely. I really appreciate it.